Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
I have a very, very special guest, Ted Shiskin. I have to tell you, I didn't know him 3 months ago, and now I want him to be my buddy. He is very special. He is a gentleman who is, whatever happens or has happened to him, he just takes a deep breath and he goes on. And he's the author of our BoomerTimes and Senior Life, our issue, September. You'll see it on the cover, Golden Treasures, the book of the month. And we welcome you to the show, Ted.
Thank you.
And you're
good to be back.
Yeah, I'm glad you are back. And Golden Treasures is a collection of short stories. And I've asked you this before, but I have to ask you again. When are you dreaming these stories? How are you coming up with all these new, unusual stories?
Well, I think I said before in the other program that I couldn't do my dreams because they're too wacky and they're unexplainable. But I don't know how I come up with my stories. I just come up with a little idea. I start a description, maybe of a person walking, and it's a nice day, and then something happens, and then, okay, who is it? Where are they? Is there another person involved? Why is it happening? And how do I make it more interesting? And how do I make a twist? Or how do I make a fantastic ending, surprise? And there's just, I think I'm just lucky the way it happens.
Yes, you do have that. I'm glad you brought that up because your endings are a surprise. You lead us down this path, and then it's like you grab us and take us to a different direction. It's very funny. I mean, you're very good at that.
Well, I try to do that. There's a couple of new stories that I've written, and I get to the ending, and now I think I'm going to go ahead and try to change them and make them a little more interesting to make me more satisfied that it does have a surprise and just an ordinary story ending. But I've got to do some more thinking.
Yeah, you're a good thinker. Well, Ted Shiskin's third book, Golden Treasures, is full of mystery, and the short stories are more amazing than the first two books he wrote. Each story is unique, has a twist or surprise, as we just said, and his stories carry you from coast to coast, involving strange happenings, surprise endings, murders, kidnappings, terrorist activities, and a little romance. So when you finish one story, you won't be able to wait until you read the next one. And I have to say that Ted is a very gentle man. And when I read some of the things in your books, they're pretty serious. I mean, they're pretty scary.
Well, that's life. We see it every day on TV, and with all the terrorist activities and school happenings. That reminds me, I might even try to do it. No, I don't think I will. I'm not going to publicize someone's idiotic killings in schools.
Yeah, it's hard. It's terrible. And as a writer, when did you start? I don't know if I asked you this before. When did you start writing? I mean, I knew you worked in the architectural field, in the building field, but is this something you were doing as a little kid?
Well, I started as an artist as a little kid. And somewhere in my teens, or maybe in my 20s, I did a small story. And that was, it was a description of walking through a pasture and describing things that I remembered. And that just lay there unfinished. Then I finished it later. And I think that's the first one I did. And like I said before, most of my stories start just with some paragraphs of descriptions. A person walking down the street, or a guy flying in a plane. And then I just start thinking, what can I do with this? And that's how it goes.
So we have a lot of newbie writers, I would say, people who have wanted to write, but they're a little afraid, they don't know what to do. Do you give them that advice? They should just start out with a paragraph about something. They went to the grocery store, or they walk their dog, down the street. Do you think that's a good thing for people to do?
Well, it depends on their imagination. It depends on how far they can use their head to invite something different into it. Invite a crash. Invite there's one story that I have. Guy's going to the pharmacy at night, late at night, and it's just a short walk. And he comes around the corner, and there's a fight going on, and a little guy is getting beat up by a big guy. So he finds a pipe, and he rushes into the fight without thinking. And that goes, and he's a reporter, and it just keeps on developing. And then I had another one where a guy was taking a walk with a dog, and something jumps out at him, and he is kidnapped, and that one really ends up crazy. That's not one of my stories, but it's weird. It was in one of my first ones. And of course, and then in one of my stories in the book, I have another dog in there, and then I've got another little animal in there that I'm not saying which it is, but it's quite different, and you kind of wonder, well, who is doing the investigating? And it's a heck of a surprise at the end. Someone might think about what it is, but most people don't realize what is doing the investigating or who. It's one of my favorites.
Do you ever look at the story that, put it down, you wrote it, and then you go back and you say, I don't even remember writing that. Where did that all come from?
Well, that doesn't happen because I guess, like I said, you're right in a way. I don't know where it came from. There's something in my head that just keeps me going. And I can, I really can't explain it. And I assume that a lot of writers have to be the same way. And you can't start a story and then think of somebody else's and then steal their story. You've got to come up with your own. And I just wrote a story, and I got down to the end and thought it was interesting. And then I realized when I got down to the end of it, I had a portion in there which was very similar from a James Bond movie. And so I changed that completely different so it wouldn't be a repetition or stealing from somebody else.
Well, what about people who go to these writers' conferences? Have you ever taken writing courses, or
No.
how did you perfect your skill here?
Well, just lucky with ideas.
But you write so well, Ted.
Well, and I was lousy at English, and you ask me what's an adjective, adverb, and I forget all this stuff. But if you really want to write, online is tons of information on how to write. One great website is called Writer's World, and they have tons of authors in there which go through different subjects. They tell you what word to use. In fact, I think there's one article that says 8 words to stay away from or use sparingly. And words, you don't. I have to be careful. No repetition. Don't use the same word in the same sentence or in the same paragraph. Keep looking at the dictionary and go to the thesaurus and find out a new meaning for that word. Otherwise, it gets boring.
No, that's very true. Well, I know that you referred a moment ago to your art, and I'd like to talk about that because your art is absolutely gorgeous. And I know that you have so many paintings on your wall, and I was hoping that you would be able to somehow be able to sell them, because I know you'd like to, and I don't know how to get that done. I wish that you could write a book and put them in. The problem is that color is very expensive to be able to produce a book with.
Yes, it would. There's one story I got. It's not in this book. It's called Autumn Sanctuary, and it's about an artist taking a vacation in Minnesota. And I could have probably put one of my pictures in there, a little fall scene. Yeah, it could even become the cover. And then there's, of course, that crazy story about the artist having no control over his hands and doing a painting which involves what happened to him in an earlier part of his life. And that's a very good surprise.
Yeah, right. Well, this is a this is shows that you're just artistic. The fact you can write, the fact that you can paint, but there's something so bigger than that, is the fact that now you have such a challenged disease and what you are having to go through to be able to keep your mind focused. Now, in a way, maybe it's the best thing that could have happened to you, because you have something to look forward to every day. You don't have to sit there and feel pain or feel, unhappy, that you can get up and say, okay, I'm going to get taken care of, and now I'm going to work for the next few hours. So that's a good thing for people who are in similar circumstances, who have challenges in their health. Don't you think that they have some sort of diversion as you do?
Yeah, if they have that. I'm lucky to be able to write and also paint. I've got to get back to painting again. Speaking of the art, I've been thinking of advertising my art. I've got so much art that I've got loose. They're not framed. And see if I could get people to come over and buy them at half price without the frame. But I haven't done that yet. But I've got so many things going with the books that I just can't really get two things going. My wife is a great help, but she can't do that. She's got bad legs and a bad back. She's got a big problem. So she used to be my right arm and my legs, but now she has a problem.
Well, let me ask you this. If there's a senior center close to you, that might be a very good thing for someone to go and make an appearance, and maybe you could have an art show there at the senior center. I don't know if people will buy it. A lot of people don't have a lot of money who go to senior centers, but if they would announce it, maybe then other people from the outside would go. So
that's possible. I do have one gallery here in Pembroke Pines, and I've talked to them, and I think I'm going to try to get something there maybe in November. But I haven't sent them any of my work, because it's a jury. You have to pay for it, the jury to accept it. And
okay, I have another idea. How about you, Jean, you could take a picture of the piece of art, on the wall. You'd take a picture, and then you could get it on eBay and sell them that way. How about that?
Well, there are millions of stuff on eBay. I was on a great website years ago, and it was done real well. You could look for colors. You could look for animals. You could look for portraits. You're looking for different countries. And so, a lot of people don't buy a painting just to have a painting. They want a painting that goes along with the furniture, the color of the walls, and stuff like that. So you could find almost any type of painting you wanted. I was on there for 5 years. I never had one bite. I had 14
I see.
paintings. and it finally went down the drain.
Sure, I understand. It's very hard to sell. It's hard
It's
to
huge. It's like the book world.
Yes, same
Like
thing.
a million books printed
Yeah.
each year in the United States.
That's true. Yeah, we know that. In fact, my husband just sold another copy of his Air Force Cowboy. I know that Gene was reading it. And we had someone that called and down from Aventura and said, oh, we want that book. And it sells for $20, but I think he may sell one a month if he's lucky. And so we have a whole box of them. And when people read them, they like them. I know Jean read it, and I think she liked it.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah, but doesn't matter. They don't sell. It's like, especially now with television and the internet, it's a different world where we used to sit down and put a book in our hand and really let the hours go by. There's just so many other distractions.
Well, your program started and got the advertisement going on the 19th, I guess it was. And since then, I've sold 28 books to customers, and we had bought 15, or rather 20 ourselves, and sold them to friends. So I sold 48 books in 3 weeks. That's not too bad.
Ted, I am sitting here so thrilled to hear that. I know when I first talked to you, I told you that, you're very lucky. That's great. Well, but there was a lot of publicity on it. We've done a lot of things on it, and we will continue to do that for you. I want to continue to have you on the show, even though that's extra. But I want to do everything I can to help you. And I know you'll be coming out with another book or two. And maybe what we'll do is just find one of your paintings and put it in the magazine, too, and then just do a little something on it. I know you'd like that.
There's one other thing. If people do like the book, I could give them my phone number and my email address. And if they want to know more about the books, the story, they could. My phone number is 954-436-0471. And my email address, my name is Shiskin, Shiskin. But my email address is spelled backwards, Nixis, NIKSIHS @AOL.com. So if someone's interested in talking to me about the book, I'd be glad to talk to them because I'm in bed and I get up twice a day. And if someone's interested, I'd be glad to talk to you about my book.
That's a wonderful thing. I'm glad you announced it. I thought you might even want to talk a little bit about what the dragon. It's on your computer, how that works, because there might be other people who really are challenged and they would love to hear about it. Since you can't move I think it's your left arm that's now not movable, but it's your right arm that you can use the mouse?
It's the right arm that's so good.
Oh, the right arm isn't good.
The left arm, I use a mouse. And the system is called the Dragon Naturally Speaking System. And you speak into it. You have to talk to it first for about 5-10 minutes. Read a subject or a portion of a book. And it gets used to your vocabulary. It gets used to your voice. And then it'll tell you, that's enough. And every once in a while, my voice keeps changing. It's getting huskier. I have to go back and re-talk and retrain it. And if there's words, it took the Dragon almost a year to be able to spell Shiskin. It's now finally spelling Shiskin correctly. It'd have a D on it or an extra S or something like that. It's finally got it correct. Makes me happy. It knows me.
Right, it knows you. But you see, the one thing is, no matter what it writes, even if it's incorrect, you can go back and you proofread it, and then you correct it. But at least it's doing your books, you have to think out loud, which is very difficult. So that's even more impressive, that you're not writing this yourself, that you're thinking and you're speaking it, and up comes the book.
Well, another problem is, which really gets confusing, is I have to be careful. When I'm writing, someone will come back to me about behind me, what do you want for supper?
Right.
And I'll forget that I'm writing and I'm talking to them about supper. Here's half a paragraph for talking about supper, so I have to change it.
Well, of course, the way that you described your stories go, maybe that's the next short story, What's for Supper?
Well, that could be an idea. It almost gave me a thought.
Ah, see, that's dangerous to talk right to you. But go ahead.
In fact, since we talking to you about it, it might get me going. Well, I'll do a real short story and send that one to you.
Okay. I love to have your stories. I think they're charming, and I know that you're out there working, and I feel like I now have a buddy. You're a very wonderful man, and Gene is so sweet.
And has been a great help, and everybody that has seen your magazine that we have given them to. This is what a fantastic magazine for all us young people.
Young people, right? Well, I just have some great story. I just found a great talk that was made by Dr. Ken Dykewald, who is a famous gerontologist, probably the most famous in the United States, and it's very long, so I'm going to break it up into pieces, starting with this November issue, because what he says about the aging population as being a major life force is so important, and I was so impressed with it, so I'm going to start to share it with everyone.
That's very reasonable, because that's when the industrial world started. Everything changed.
Yep, everything did change, but it's going to change more and more. In fact, the science that is coming, now with Mars, finding water on Mars, heaven only knows what's going to be coming on. That's another, now that you've got me going, I wish I had the time, because I'd love to sit and write some of those short stories that you write. You've really tempted me with all this, too. It's a lot of...
That'll be fun reading them.
It would be. Of course, mine's going to be a little sexy. I have a sexy streak in me.
Well, don't get me into that.
Well, Bill had a lot of sex in his Air Force cowboy.
Well, I can't do that.
Yeah, but did Jean say anything about that?
Well, she reads a lot of books, and a lot of romance books.
Right.
It depends on the writer.
I know.
How much, interest they want to put on sex.
I understand. Well, listen, there's so much to do. I have this darling little white dog, and I could do so much on her. In fact, she has something new. Talk about your the way that you type on the computer. Now I have a little dog that while I'm working on the computer, all of a sudden she appears at my feet, and she looks at me with these gorgeous little black eyes, because she's a small little white dog, as you know, from the cover you can see her. And she starts off with this growling. And I said, "No, Snowy, I'm too busy." And she doesn't stop. Then if I ignore her, she starts barking at me. So this could be a wonderful story. I have no idea what she's saying. I could invent that, right? I could make a whole story about what she's telling me. And she's this little dog, and she doesn't play with toys. She doesn't do things like that. So I bought this big it's like an alligator made of food, and it's big. And I now gave it to her, and she doesn't know what to do. So she walks away with it in her mouth. She can't hardly even grab it because it's a big thing, but because it's food, she doesn't want to leave it. It's hysterical. So she drags it from bed to bed. So, I'm always seeing, now you've got me thinking, gee, this would be a cute short story. You can steal it if you want.
Well, no. But you could get a surprise out of that. Take of it.
I know.
You could do a surprise out of that, or a twist.
You can do the surprise. That takes a very clever person. That's really clever what you do about O. Henry, have you ever looked him up and actually seen who he was and how he came up with those O. Henry endings?
Oh, Gene's beside me, and you've got a senior thing coming up in January.
Oh, we do.
February.
Yeah, we have the Boomer Expo coming up in January, yes.
Yeah.
In Hollywood.
I was just wondering, now, is that to help seniors?
Oh, yeah. It's for everything. We have it's really for veterans. It's for everybody, but we do feature veterans. They come in, we have a color guard. And go ahead.
What if I go ahead and pick out a couple of paintings and you have them there and sell them and help the situation somewhere where that money could go to help some seniors?
Well, we'll talk about that later. I don't know how we can do that. We'll talk about that. I mean, I would like to help you, but let's just talk about what that would be, because I've had a lot of people offer they want to bring their paintings in, and we don't have really a lot of room for that. We have these booths, but why don't we talk about that in the future? It's not until January, and maybe we can come up with something.
Okay.
Well, Ted, it's really been absolutely wonderful talking to you. I'm so glad that you sound like you're feeling well.
Well, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, well, and say hello to Gene for me, and we'll get you on another time, and just keep writing away, okay?
And another thing, I am still trying to get my book on the Amazon so that people can buy from them.
Okay.
So whenever I get that done, I will let you know.
Okay. Okay, well, it's great talking to you again, and just keep doing all the good stuff that you do, Ted.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll send you your magazine because we wrote a little something in that for you this time.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Ted. Bye.
Bye.